Caathy from Eclectic Images, and thanks for joining me today. Today we have a lovely sunny day, so no rain noise like we've been working with lately, but we do have our grandson with us, so there might be some odd background noises. He may even come to say hello at some stage. Today we're going to make a grungy Christmas card using some texture paste, drawing inks, things like that. It's using a couple of our stamps, the 'Twas the Night Before Christmas stamp, and I will use the tree and probably one of the mice out of that set, and also some texture with the webbing texture stamp. We'll be doing some embossing with our inks. We've got some VersaFine Clear in Fallen Leaves. We've got some Versamark for our embossing, which we'll use the Princess Gold. And then probably in the Catherine Pooler Buttercream and Macchiato. But I've got a couple of others on standby because I just might need to experiment with my colours a bit. We're going to be doing some stenciling through the BRT Moonscape stencil. Just this one with lovely bubbles or coffee stains, whatever you like to look at them. I look at them as sort of bubbles, although I'm using them more as a grunge look today. And then this great pattern with swirls and stars. And okay, so we'll use that with the texture paste. And this is the BRT coloured texture paste. So they're a metallic paste which resists inks, so we can float inks around them. We've got leather and we've got olive. And then in the drawing inks, I've got walnut, grass and lime, and we'll use a mixture of those, particularly walnut and grass. Haven't decided if I'm adding the lime in as well. We will see how that one pans out. Okay, so I've already done a little bit of texture pasting just to get some cards ready, but we'll show the basic technique on one of these cards. So I did one in leather and one in olive, but then I've also done one where I've combined a bit of leather and olive together, which looks really good. So that's the one I'm going to add to. I'm working on my magnetic platform here, so I've just got that sitting on my desk. So this means that I can pop a bit of, because I'm going to be taking the texture paste off the edge of the paper, I'm going to pop down a bit of scratch paper over the mat. I could just wipe the mat clean, but I won't be stopping to do that straight away, so I thought I'd better just put a bit of scratch paper down. I'll grab my stencil and have a look at what part of the design I want to see on it, on the card I mean. I think I might push it over that way a little bit. And I probably won't use those bits because I want to have the stenciling more around the edge. Still messing around with it a bit. Yes, I want the stenciling to be around the edge so that we've got our stamped image in the centre. Okay, so to use the two colours, I'll have both colours open. So you can see I've used the magnets with the magnetic board, use those nice big magnets to hold my stencil in place. That way it's not going to move while I'm working on it. So we've got our leather, and then I'll open up the olive as well. Grab a palette knife, and I'm going to pick up a bit of leather and smooth that down in a couple of areas. And then I'll pick up a bit of olive as well and bring that in. Okay, now we start smoothing them out, and we'll get some areas of one colour, some of the other, and then some where they've mixed together. Now I'll just move that out of the way. I'm not sure how well we can see past those. So if you need to, just pick up a bit of extra texture paste from one of your other areas where you've plopped it on. If I do run out, I can always go back to my tub and grab a little bit more. So I'm placing it on and then using the side of the spatula just to take off any excess, while being a bit careful that I don't lift out too much of the actual design. Sometimes as you're scraping over it, you can actually, particularly with larger areas, you can actually drag some of it out of the stencil. So I'm just being careful that I'm putting it where I want it and not losing it. Now I don't want to go over that bit, so I'm being a little bit careful with my spatula here. So I'll place that bit in, scrape it back that way. On the edge there. Okay. And again, I'm not going to get those long bits in, so let's just move away from those. It's great having those magnets just holding the stencil in place. I can then just focus on the bits that I'm working on. of that brown from around there, a bit of leather. Do a bit of a scrape, pick up any excess, and then come into these bottom stars. So you can see there, if I scrape too hard, see how I'm lifting colour out? So I've got to make sure that I lift off any excess, but I'm actually just gliding over it. And I think we'll have a little bit more olive, just to pick up some of these bits here. And we'll come around to there. The only problem with working on the magnetic mat is it's not easy to pick it up and turn it round. I mean, I could, but I'm not working in a huge area here, so I'm just going to try and work around changing the angle that I'm holding the spatula at. Now, I've scraped most of that one out by mistake, so let's just put a bit extra on there, a bit extra in that spot, and just go over it gently. There we go, and we've got a nice blend of colours in there. Now we are looking for a grunge look, so if the colours don't blend in beautifully, it's all just going to add to the look of it. Let's grab a little bit of a paper towel, and I'm going to just wipe my spatula clean before I put it down somewhere on the table. I'll very quickly pop lids back onto my paste because I don't want them drying out. And if you leave them just sitting around, it's fine while you're working with them, but if you leave them sitting around with their lids off, they are going to dry out quicker. Now let's move our magnets off the panel, out of my way. Gently lift up the stencil. There you go. And of course it's sticking to the card, so we'll just lift that away. So I had already done the one bit because I've used the stencil that side and that side, I would have had bits of stencil overlapping the other areas. That's why I split it up into doing it in 2 different sessions. So I could do one half in one session and the other half is already dry, which means it doesn't matter if I pop the stencil over the top. Okay, let's put that to one side. I'll clean that. That'll also need to be cleaned reasonably quickly. Let's just check around the card that we haven't got any bits hanging off the edges. Okay. And now we would put that to one side to dry. That's going to be a fabulous card, but I have already got the others done ready so that we've got something that we can keep working on while that's drying. So I'll put that to one side, and we'll put the whole magnetic plate to one side and start working on our glass mat.
Can you do this?
Are we going to do some foofing, are we?
Yeah.
Foof, foof. Don't think we're going to actually do foofing today, but we might keep it standing by ready, okay? Do you want to hang on to it for me?
Yeah.
So now we'll pick up one of the cards that we've already done some texture paste on and just work out which one our stamp's going to fit into the neatest. And I think it might be the leather one here. So with that one, I will get out our embossing stuff ready. So a bit of catching paper, get the embossing powder out. Go over this with an anti-static pad. And now I had that on a block just while I was doing that, but I am going to put in my platform so that I make sure I get it really where I want it. So with the stamp platform, pop the card in, lining it up with one of the grid points so I know exactly where I am. And now look at where our stamp is going to fit in amongst all that texture paste. I had in mind doing it sort of up to the right hand side a bit, but of course when you're putting your texture paste on, it is a little bit random. I'm actually now having the idea that I could have stamped this in a soft grey first before I did my texture pasting, then I would know exactly where the tree was going to go. But you know, that's just being a little bit smart, isn't it? Sometimes we don't plan these things ahead until we find ourselves in this situation where we go, I could have done that a bit differently. And I'm sure you've all been there. Pop it on. Just going to press down with my Barron tool. Make sure I've got nice even coverage there. Then quickly whisk our card out so that I can get the embossing paste on. Embossing powder. Yeah, this is going to be one of those cards where I start to get my tongue tied as to what products I'm talking about, aren't I? So this is embossing powder. So just checking that it's everywhere I want it and nowhere that I don't want it. All good. platform to one side. Excess embossing powder popped away. And let's get this heated, see how we look. Let's warm it up a little bit first. And concentrate a bit more till we see it start to change. There it goes. Now, one of the reasons for embossing is that it's going to resist. So when we start putting the inks around the place, the embossing powder will resist those and we can move inks around. So make sure that I've got it nice and smooth everywhere. Look, a little bit more there. Beautiful. It's a lovely colour. Okay, so there's our card. Just wait till that cools a bit. So we're going to use the drawing ink, and at first I'm going to use it on my platform here, washed out with a bit of water. And then if I like it, I might use some directly on as well. When you use it directly on, it's very strong. So we'll just see how it's looking as to whether we need it that way. Also going to have a little bit of paper towel scrunched up ready just for dabbing off excess. And I've got my filbert water brush, which is the one that's a little bit wider, and we'll just run that on my hand till I know it's a little bit damp. Now I'm also going to pop some water on my glass mat so that I can work this into the water and get a lesser intensity of colour. Now let's start placing it around our design. We'll also spritz the card a bit and we're going to dab some off so we get just this very soft look happening. And I'm not doing any particular painting, it's quite a random, I love that, don't I? Random looks. Now and again I'll drag a bit more colour into my water there. Let's dab it on, take it off so that we do get this really soft look. And as I said, if we then decide we want it a little bit stronger, I will come in with some direct ink. Let's spritz that a bit. I don't want it having hard edges there. So yes, if I want it stronger, we can actually run a bit of the drawing ink around. Let's have a bit of the green in there as well. Let's pick up a little bit of the green. Give our card a little spritz. Pop it on. Because I've got brown on my brush, so it's going to give me a mixed colour, which is similar to the mixed colour that we ended up with on our bit that we've just done the embossing paste. Let's do a little bit up the top here. So again, just give my card a spritz so that it all moves and blends. Going around the design area, pick up a bit of the green with the brown. Might just do a little bit just down the edge as well there. A bit of both colours. And a bit across the top. Let's do a bit more of a spritz there. I am going to be doing some inking around the edge of the card and some extra stamping. So I'm not too worried. I'm focusing more on the design, on where the paste is, not so much the edge of the card. Okay, so that's quite good. We might just put a little bit down here. We've got some interesting noises happening in the background there. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Let's just do a little bit stronger. This is where it gets a bit scary. Spritz our card. Do a little bit stronger just around some of our design. Let it run a little bit. The background noise is young grandson riding a little bike around where we're filming. It's all good. Actually, just going to dab a little bit, but I don't want to take too much of that away because it's actually doing some really nice patterns. Should we do some up here as well? I think so. I like that. So let's spritz the card, dab a bit of more concentrated ink on. Let it run a bit, so tip the card around. If it's not running, add a bit more spritz of water. But we don't want too much water or we'll lose some of the intensity of the artistry. A little bit of water just to make a bit of running. And we'll leave that there. Dab slightly. Okay, now I need to clean up my mess. So I'll give my brush a bit of a clean. And now again, once again, I've got loads of colour on my glass mat. If I had the time, I would just, or do we have the time? If I had the time, I would grab this other piece of card where I've already got embossing paste on. Let that one sit and dry for a moment. Give this a bit of a spritz with water, spritz those inks, and let's just do some smooshing. And we'd get some wonderful patterns happening and not be wasting all this gorgeous ink. And it's going to be a different look because it's actually going to be more on the card and less where the embossing is, because it's actually harder to get that part where the embossing is in touch with the paper, because you've got the in touch with the mat. You've got the raised effect. I don't know if that actually made sense. It made sense in my head. I don't know whether it actually made sense the way I said. You've got this raised effect, so when you lay the paper down, it's not, the card part isn't going to reach right to the base because it's got that raised bit. So you tend to get lighter colours around here, whereas with what we're doing here, we're getting darker colours around our paste. So it's a little bit of a different look. Now I could do a dozen more cards with this, couldn't I? But we won't. We're going to leave that sit and dry, and I am now going to actually clean up my mat. Look at all that beautiful colour. Does that inspire you just to go, oh, let's just smoosh some more and make some more cards?
I'm never sure whether to take offence when you say clean up my mat.
Oh, I don't think you need cleaning up, Matt. Let's have a look at this. Love that. I'm just hoping that what I also have planned for it is not going to spoil it. We should take a photo now. But you know me, I love to keep playing. So what I'm doing now is just giving it a dry so we can start doing our inking and stamping without it going anywhere. I'm going to do the stamping with the VersaFine Clear ink because I haven't decided yet whether I want to do a bit of an overspray with a metallic spray, and I don't want our stamping, where we stamp the texture webbing, which is what I'm going to do next, I don't want that to, if I then decide that I'm going to do some spritzing over the top, I don't want the stamping to bleed. So sometimes it's good to use an ink that dries waterproof. Sometimes it's good to use something that you can move around with water. So we're going to do multiple stamping and build up a little bit of background grunge here. So I start off near the edge of the card and then work it in a little bit as I've got less ink on the card.
On the stamp.
Yes, less ink on the stamp. Good point there, Matthew. You're really keeping up with what I'm doing today, aren't you? Oh, look at those little bits of crackle coming through the texture paste. I think we need some of those up the top there as well. Let's see what we can do. Excellent. Okay, that's enough for that one. Now, I'm a bit unsure with which of the... I'm going to turn to a new page because I'm going to be using a very soft ink. I don't want to be picking up any of that colour. So let's turn to a fresh page in our pad. A bit of filming of Grayson chatting away in the half unpacked messy craft area. Yeah, I still haven't fully finished unpacking everything from the craft show we did last weekend. That's normal. Absolutely normal. Okay, so I'm not 100% sure which colour is going to match in with those colours that we've got there. So on the back of another piece of card, which... I was going to use one of the bits that I've been stamping on, but they're all wet now, aren't they? We'll do it on the edge of this one here. So let's get the buttercream. I can't do it on the back. No, I've got to do it on the front because that's wet. Did I say do it on the back?
No, I just thought you'd be able to do it on the back.
No, that's probably still a bit wet. So I'll just work down this side that's dry. So there's the buttercream, which is a really good colour. but I'm going to have a look at whipped honey as well. Okay, let's just clean the brush off a bit. Pick up some whipped honey and we'll try that in here. So it's a bit more goldy. And then our other colour that we're going to use is going to be macchiato. So let's put that, a little bit of that around the edge and just see how our colours are looking together. And you know what, either one is going to work beautifully, isn't it? I think I'm going to go with buttercream actually. I like the whipped honey, but I think the buttercream is just a little bit softer. So let's pick up buttercream.
I agree. I'd go with buttercream.
And don't stick your hand in your wet texture paste. This isn't going to be one for the bloopers reel. I'm going to keep going even though I've got wet texture paste on my hand. Okay, let's do some blending. Right, so with our buttercream, pick it up on our brush. And I want this mainly in the centre of the card. So I'm just going to start off softly and then increase my pressure with my brush once I've got it happening. So that's a trick. Normally I say work from the outside of the card in, and that certainly does make it easy to get your ink on nice and softly. But if you need to start in the middle, just start really light, and then as you're going, just increase that pressure. That way your brush is moving by the time you increase the pressure. A bit more up here. Now from here, I can just work from the outside in.
Nana,
Yes, Grayson?
what's this doing here? What's this doing
That's
here?
one of our lights so that everybody can see what Nana's working on. Cool. You know, I think I was going to just add the macchiato around the edge, but I think maybe even a little bit of sandcastle first. Just bring in a little bit of a softer brown. And of course that means I don't have a brown brush standing by. I'm just duck out of shot for a moment, grab my brush set, bring that in and pick out a brush that I can use with brown. Okay. Pick up a bit of sandcastle. This time I am going to work from the edge in. Actually, this is interesting because this brush has a little bit of red tones on it from what I've previously used it for. So even though I'm picking up sandcastle, I am getting some other colours coming through, which I quite like. It adds a little bit of extra interest to it. And it's particularly picking up where it's butting into the texture paste there. So let's do a little bit more there. Oh, sometimes we get some nice surprises, don't we? Now let's bring that macchiato in. I'm loving this sepia tone colour. So I'll switch to my big brush for this. Lovely having background music, isn't it? Bit of circles, bit of smudging. It can be quite rough because remember this is a grungy look we're going for. Just circling to bring it in a bit further at some spots. We've got quite a game happening down there, I think. See how dark you can get on the edges. It's a terrific colour. Only available as a large size pad at the moment. I'm sure all the brown shades will come out as minis possibly in 2023, I hope. But I am keeping the larger size pads in stock at the moment if you do want it. That, I think, is fabulous. I like that I've got a little bit of lighter areas as well as deeper areas, so we get a bit of a glow happening around our verse. The only thing I'm just going to do is just grab my cloth here and just buff off the embossing, just so it brings it back really shiny. And I think think we're nearly done with our gorgeous grungy card. I didn't end up stamping the little mouse in. Shall we see if he fits? We could fit him in there, couldn't we? What if I stamp him in with the same colour, the falling leaves colour, same colour that I did the antiquing around the edge there. So there's 3 little mice in this stamp set because of course the phrase is not a creature is stirring, not even a mouse. Does give us 3 little mice that we can use for other things too, which is always good. So pick up some colour there. Grayson, do you want to come and see our little mouse stamp? Oh, we're a busy boy this morning. Just stamp him in there. Come around this way. Now hop up and see Nana's card and say hello to everyone on the video. Up we go. There we go. There's Nana's card with a little mouse. Do you want to look at the camera and say hi?
Hi.
Okay, we'll just move a few things out of the way so I can put this on our black background and you can have a look at the card, the finished one, and hopefully you like it as much as I do. That's our grungy Christmas card with the "'Twas the Night Before Christmas" stamp. Thank you for watching, and we'll hopefully join you again for another video soon.